Welcome to the Mime Radio Show. I'm Karen Hoyer.
And I'm James Donlin here in the basement.
Well, it's starting to be spring in Chicago, so we're happy about that.
Yeah, you probably
in California.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually in the basement studio in Oregon, in Ashland, Oregon. So, Chicago and the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 4 of season 4, correct, Karen?
At 35. I'm not sure.
But
we'll get Michael to put the numbers in correctly.
Right. And speaking of Michael, behind our images, this is like back there, behind there. I wish I could pull this thing. There's our producer, Michael Diaz, who causes us and makes us look beautiful on camera. And he makes our voices sound resonant and rich. And if we make a mistake, he can turn us off at any time. But we really have to thank him because he does all the editing and all the pushing of the buttons and the levers and so forth to make this Mime Radio show work. So, Michael, wherever you are, I hope you're there. I'm glad you're there.
And our guests today, they're pretty far away.
Yeah, our guests today, this is a very emotional time for me because I have some history with the Dimitri family. And many of you have heard of the great clown Dimitri from Switzerland. Many of you of my generation have seen him perform. But he has children with Gunda, his wife, that are amazing performers. It's truly a family tradition to present amazing work that borders on mime and clown and cirque. And we're so happy to have with us today David Dimitri and Masha Dimitri, brother and sister of the Dimitri family. And there's David.
Hello.
And Masha is back there, and there's Masha. And before we start, I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. And let's start with David. I'm going to put on my spectacles. Here they are. I think they're here. Yep, they're here. Okay. David Dimitri, combining an education at the State Academy for Circus Arts in Budapest with intensive dance studies at New York's renowned Juilliard School, David Dimitri has created virtuoso wire dances celebrated at circuses, arts festivals, and concert halls throughout the world. Places like Canada's Cirque du Soleil, New York's Big Apple Circus, the Swiss National Circus Cani, and many, many, many other adventures. In 2007, David Dimitri's remarkable performing career took an added dimension. And if you haven't seen what I'm going to tell you about, you should look it up on YouTube. At least there's some facets of it. With the invaluable assistance of his father, the famed clown Dimitri, David created the one-man show L'Homme Cirque, the one-man circus, a sparkling presentation of nouveau cirque arts, both intimate and compelling, performed in a touring circus tent designed and built for the production. And we'll talk much more about that during our interview. Amongst many other projects, for example, flying an airplane as an FAA private pilot, David Dimitri is managing the Dimitri Cultural Center in Verscho, Switzerland, together with his brothers and sister, Masha. And there's also Nina, who's somewhere probably playing the charango in Bolivia somewhere in the Andes. But Masha has also had an amazing professional career. And she began her artistic training at 15 in the National Circus School in Budapest, specializing in slackwire. Slackwire must be kind of the thing that Gunda and Dimitri threw into the cradle, some kind of thread that they could look at as they were opening their eyes. After 2 years, she switched to the Scuola Teatro Dimitri, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, while continuing her slackwire training. Soon, different engagements brought her all over the world. Cirque du Soleil, Big Apple Circus New York, Swiss National Circus Cani, etc., to name only a few. The Familia Dimitri, not only the show itself, but many manifestations of the Dimitri family have been central to her life, with countless theater works thriving worldwide from this amazing family of performing artists inspired by the patriarch, the unequaled clown Dimitri. And of course, behind every good man, there's a fantastic woman. So I'm sure Gunda is somewhere in the mix for sure. I don't think we've talked enough about her. Masha has been the director and performer in many of these international productions. as well as touring the world with her solo shows. She has managed the Teatro Dimitri in Verscho, Switzerland over the years, as well as touring the world with her solo shows. So we welcome both David and Masha to the Mime Radio Show.
So wonderful to have you both here and to learn more about your performing and your careers and all the amazing creative ideas that you have in your heads that you've put up and shared with the audiences. We're really glad to have you here.
Thank you.
David, you're in Switzerland, and Masha, you're on your way to Switzerland in Northern Europe, correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So usually this is my favorite question to start with performers is about like, what do you do to prepare to get ready? And I know there's like, especially for you, David, setting up your stage. You too, Masha, you have a lot of technical parts to get ready. And then you're performing, physically. So you need to get that ready. But what do you say to yourself right before you step on stage? Do you have a little mantra? Maybe David, you want to start?
Yeah, that second before you step on.
Yeah, it's always a moment where you kind of reflect on what's the best state of mind to succeed again, because at least me as an artist, it's always over and over a challenge again, trying to see, does the magic still work? Can I still do it? Will it still come across to the audience like the night before? And then in that sense, I tell myself, the best that works for me is just be yourself. It's like, try to tell you, don't overact, don't, and try to get into that just, Zen state of mind and say, I'm just going to go and enjoy myself. That's usually the trick for me.
And you don't,
I
was going to say, because there's some work in the air that's very technical and very Zen-like in terms of connecting with nature. So I'm imagining, how does the idea of, being shot out of a cannon or walking through the roof of your tent or into the air, does that cross your mind, or is that something that's now just so
yeah, exactly.
part of you don't think about? Because you said something about, I want to make sure I can do it again. So hopefully you will do it again.
Good question, because that's the technical aspect. And there I tell myself, well, there's nothing I can do now, 5 minutes before the show. If I am not able to do it now, I won't be able to do it in the show either, but I have done it. So I guess I'm able to do it. So that's kind of out of the way. But the most difficult is those first few seconds or minutes. If you don't hit it right on there, the whole show could be lost. It's so, for me, it's always so important the way the show starts. How is the audience? Are they distracted? And just that beginning kind of doesn't work out. Then it's like the whole show can kind of not work, It's like, so.
Yeah.
Preparing, I guess I don't do any meditation in that sense. For me, the meditation is really, like you said, the preparation of the whole technical aspect, preparing everything. That's really the meditation.
Yes. And Masha, your shows, when you were doing your solo shows, they had so many different aspects. I mean, you had all of the technical aspects of a circus performer, but then you had the storyteller and the characters, and there's a lot of you that you have to pull together. What do you do? What do you say to yourself or think before you go on stage?
Well, it changed a lot through the years, and I think my brother has been, even if he doesn't know, he has been a teacher for me to not be over ready. Because I warmed up for hours, and my body is in so much pain after all those years that now I'm down to a minimum and just enjoy myself. really. I know what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it. And I think I'm going to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's great. Yeah.
I envied David. We did a short moment together at Circus Knie when where they had the Cirque du Soleil show, and I admired him how he just came like, oh, little handstand, few jumps, and then he was ready. And I was like there for an hour before warming up, and was never better prepared than him. So I was like, what am I doing here? And so in the years, really, I learned to maybe manage my body, to not be too much in pain. And sometimes I even thought even the whole warming up is making it worse. So I had to find the right balance to really actually just know I can do it and not having to fret.
How much of your father's influence would have been in these thoughts that you two are expressing? I mean, did you watch him prepare, or was there? Did he sort of smile at you?
He was an asset. No, he was an asset to rehearsal, to painstakingly really repeating all his little movements, all his little gags. He was so into rehearsing everything, and that was also a big example for me, anyway.
Yeah.
He started in the morning.
What's that?
I mean, he started in the morning in his studio at home, already kind of going through the show. And then he in the afternoon again. And then he went down to the theater. And there, like Masha said, like he kind of rehearsed every part, and it was really, everyone was so precise and also time-wise, he had a strict timeline before the show. It was like every day was so precise.
Yeah. That's something we can talk about a little later, about the Swiss precision. I have some stories about that in my travels, but go ahead.
What was it like then when you were all working together, when you were working on the show together that was called La Familia Dimitri, and he was the director, and he was not the director. Masha, you're shaking your head.
Masha was the director.
Okay. So that's even different. Like, how was it to direct your dad? I was going to say, how is it for your father to direct you? But how was it for you to direct your father?
Well, he directed me in 3 different shows. So I lived that experience too, which was really great. And in the family show, we actually did it. It's nice of you, David, to say that, but we kind of put it together. But I think the wish of our father, was really not to have to do that, and just be able to just play and enjoy himself and have to do what needs to be done. And then he didn't want to have an act. He just wanted to have the little role in between without not much. For me, it was really an incredible time to be in this situation with him. And also we played really big theaters, and we arrived the day early, so we had always a day spare to do something. And that was really, for me, it was a really great time.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching the little clips that are available on YouTube. And what was really interesting to me was the fact that you were working all together, and the concept of status in clowning, where you have the number one clown, and people have different levels of status, and that Dimitri was kind of the lowest at one point anyway. David, you come out with like he's on his tricycle and he's kind of in the way, and you just come out with a push cart and you're very high status, and you grab him and take him off stage on the little push cart. Yeah. And I thought, well, that's really the mark of a good collaboration, when everyone knows where they are in the hierarchy.
I mean, everything was possible in that show. That was the nice thing, that it was really a collaboration of everybody in the show, and everybody could just add what he wanted to add, and and so we played around, and those things just were created like this from playing around and trying out, and that was really nice. And what you said before about status, who has a more important role or so, but what really impressed me, my father one day, I think we were at the New Victory Theater on Broadway, and we had really a good night. And he, in the dressing room, he said, imagine my dad, he played, he played the big theaters. I mean, he played the Kennedy Center, and he's not small potatoes, but him saying that, actually, this is the greatest thing, to be together like this in a show, and I said, by him to say that after he has toured every possible big theater in the world, saying that this is the greatest thing, to be together in a show with us, it was like really touching.
Yeah.
Now I have a question. So, it's wonderful what you're saying, but what for you, David and Masha, and your father, perhaps, maybe you learned this from him. What did the audience mean to you? Like that energy, that force, whether it's a small audience, a big theater, was there any kind of philosophy or recognition of the archetype of that audience, what the public is to you? Is it a friend? Is it a child to be played with? I mean, or is it someone to make love to? Like, what are your feelings about the audience in general? Do you have some thoughts about that?
You mean not specifically with the family show, but just for us?
No, I'm just saying I'm switching gears a little bit here. Like we've talked about, entering the stage, what you're feeling, and maybe the camaraderie of what happens. But how do you see the audience? What kind of, who are those people? Not literally like they're kids or they're adults or they're 15 or they're 85. Like, what is there some kind of philosophy about who that audience is or what they represent?
I think we were brought up, at least in my perspective, the audience is a group that you have to give the most respect to that you can. It's a group of people that somehow decides to come and see your show, takes the time, comes to see the show, sits down, and this group that is kind of around you is like this great respect that you have to give them. And so whatever you do needs to be at such a worked out level, at such a virtuoso level. That's, I think, what we were taught. If you want to show something, then you really have to be so good, because these people came especially for you, and they're going to bring something away. They're going to come to see something and go home with something that they experienced. So it's like also this kind of not a it's not a magnifying. It's like something that they will bring around the world, what they saw. So it's kind of gets multiplied what they saw. So the importance of the audience, I think, is what I think about your question about what does it mean?
Yeah.
It's this great respect for this group of people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying.
No, it makes total sense. I understand what you're saying. I feel the same way, and I think probably as a young man, I was only in my late 20s when I first came to Verschu, and that sense of respect for the art and the land and the craft was so obvious to me, and I think that helped me as a young performer too. So I totally understand. What about you, Masha? What is your feeling about this question?
For me, it's like bring on the magic. It's have people forget something, or not forget, but just like take them off on a trip, on a magic trip, and forget their usual world for a moment, and just have them dream on, and hope they will remember it in a good way. And for me, it's really just that. Yeah, like the little baguette magique, that you can put on a show for just 1 hour, 2 hours, doesn't matter. Just have them be in another world.
Where does
to give them like a transportation, someplace to go and someplace new, a journey that they take with you.
Where does this is a kind of a challenging question? Where does politics fit in all that? We know that physical theater throughout the years and decades and hundreds of years has been used to promote ideas, especially I know in the United States there's been, for example, the San Francisco Mime Troupe, which you may have heard of or seen, the word mime was in there, but they really didn't do mime.
No.
It was very much about issues and, trying to convince people about certain forces in the world, whether they were evil or positive or whatever. I'm just wondering, when you approach an audience, is politics ever a part of your sense, or just joy itself, or transportation of magic? I mean, does that fit at all, or how do you see that dilemma, with artists? I see David's frowning already.
well, we were brought up of like our dad. He made a point of stay away from politics, on the one side. On the other side, he was active. I mean, he was always concerned about the minorities, and try to help. I mean, we had refugees hidden, in the valley and stuff like that,
Is there a gypsy population in Switzerland? Is there because the people are
sure
the travelers
discriminated. Is there? I don't remember seeing that population so much in Switzerland.
But on the other issue, I mean, for me, in the moment, maybe it's because probably Masha too, we're really concerned about our own institution. It's a cultural arts center that our parents created, and the reality that we face to, make it stay alive, bring it to another level maybe, and the difficulty to kind of come through to certain groups that just don't see the importance of the arts. And that's in the moment more maybe where I could touch, politics, try to with the performance, try to motivate and convince people that haven't thought about it, how important it is for our society in general, to have people that think differently, to have something that gets your mind going in another way,
both of you have in your solo work, you have these tremendous circus skills, but in your solo work, the most important part seems to be the story, that you have a story to tell. Whether, and David in L'Homme Circus is like the whole through line of this man, telling his whole story of all the different circus acts he can. And Masha, unfortunately, many of yours that I watched were in German, but I could tell you were creating all these characters. And to me, that's a part of politics too, in terms of like people should listen to each other's stories. People should share their stories. And that's what theater is about. And that's why it's important to have cultural institutions where people go and get transported into another place.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say about that, Masha?
Yeah, my dad actually did direct the show, and I made another one in the same way, as always with the company. He directed a show where it was a political issue, and it went through being prohibited, and then he had to find another way of telling the story, and then another way, and then at the end came the circus, where he told the same story, the same political issue, but the agents, let's say the ones that prohibited always those different shows, they didn't check it because they were enchanted by the circus. So I repeated that later on again, where it was a political issue, and we finished being they finished being a circus troupe, telling the exact same story, but being a circus, the commissioners or whatever, the agents, they couldn't check. They were just enchanted by, wow, finally you got it. You're not putting the issue back on the table, but you understood, and you're doing your nice little circus. But the circus was telling exactly the same story.
Yeah, coming in the back door, right? Yeah. So I think one thing that's very clear is, I was going to say, one thing that's very clear with with both of you and your father and Nina and so forth, is that there's a spirit of joy, like this idea that I think I agree with David, that feeling of how important the arts are for the human spirit and for the survival of the planet and the human being. I think that's so evident in your work. And I think that's, people can say that's political by nature also, but that's working from a very positive place. And so that's important. That's so important. Yeah. How did you guys... Go ahead.
I read a statement not so long ago about my dad that he made, and which made me really, it touched me a lot, was like, he did, like David said, he did quite some political work always as a clown, but he was actually quite serious about it. But in one of his books, there was a statement like, if there's nothing to laugh about anymore, then we're really, really at a bad place. So it's still political in a certain way, but he really had, that was really one of his most serious statements. Because there you felt the worry, like if people cannot laugh about something anymore, then that's really, really bad.
Yeah.
And then you also have the aspect of the clown as a person that can poke fun at the people in authority, with the jester and the king, and then the ability to make everyone realize we are all the same. We all deal with the same problems, and we're all struggling, so that we get that sympathy, that empathy with the performer. Yeah.
This is a subject for a long
late at night, right? Long subject.
I'm curious about, in the introduction, both of you were studying Slackwire, and I was wondering how you both got started, and why maybe Slackwire comes, is actually written about, even though you have all these other skills. So maybe David, start with.
David, you were a high wire though, right?
Yeah.
Tight.
But what was when you came out of the cradle? I mean, did you see the string there, and it was your dad holding the thread above your eyes or something like that, and playing a whistle at the same time? Like, how did? And you both went to Budapest too, which is very interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about your formative years?
First of all, obviously we were playing when we were children. We were playing. It was like playing games with all these, equipment, juggling balls, and what else. balancing on a wire or on a bar or whatever. And then in circus school in Budapest, I was one of the first from the West, bringing the hard currency, the dollar, to the Ministry of Culture in Budapest. They were very happy about that.
Was this still communist times? Was this still?
Yes, it was still communist. Yeah. Kadar János was still president. He made a deal though with the Russians, so they left Hungary alone. They could more or less do what they wanted. It was considered the west of the east, Hungary. And at that school, it was, we had many privileges because of that. So, for example, after like several months or like half a year into my first year, I told my father, because we called each other all the time, I said, there's no wire walking class. And he said, well, why don't you ask? So I went to the director and I asked him if it would be possible to do that. And they found a teacher for me. And it became my private teacher. It was only me learning how to walk on the wire at first. Then they made a class and so on. But I always had my private lesson. And that's actually why I specialized in wire walking. And so it went on. The high wire part is only because obviously I was young and full of fantasies and stuff. But I realized that being a wire walker, doing a little flip on a 2 meter on a 7-foot cable won't guarantee an existence, an economical existence as much as someone that walks up at 30 feet up in the air. And that really got me thinking. I said, I should start to rehearse to walk up there. So maybe I can make a little more money. Obviously that was then when you're young, you have these kind of impulses of, be more materialistic. That changed over the years and it became, another motive to do high wire walking. But just an explanation what I am. I'm really a wire walker that did acrobatics at first and then kind of took advantage of the fact that I was very trained in balancing. So walking on a high wire was not a difficulty, because doing flips on a wire without a balancing pole is much harder than just walking across a cable. Yeah. Obviously the height brings some challenges to it. It's dangerous, but not difficult,
I don't think Philippe Petit ever did flips on the wire, did he? He just walked really, really high.
It's true, but I worked closely with Philippe, and
did you?
I at first thought that too. I said he walks across the wire, but I was just amazed how he was an acrobat. I mean, he did forward and backward rolls on that cable. He bounced a ball on his head while crossing the cable. He did incredible things.
Yeah,
really. till he had his accident at Ringling that really almost cost him his life, but he recuperated. By the way, did you see him just recently in New York, in Washington? He did a crossing at 70 years old.
Amazing.
I was a teacher at the Ringling Brothers Circus in the 70s, a mime teacher, when Philippe was invited. He had just walked the wire between the Trade Center, and he was invited down. And I used to watch him rehearse, but I'd sneak under the seats and watch him alone. And I saw him fall several times and only catch himself like this, on the wire. And no one was there, and he was above a concrete floor on a 45 degree. And I remember him, taking a tape and putting it on the on each end of the pole to get the equilibrium, of the pole, right? He'd go up, but he'd actually fall. I mean, slip, and he'd catch himself, and there was nobody around. And so when you say, he almost lost his life, he was very adventurous, and
yeah.
Very
gutsy, man.
Yeah, but you have this, here's these technical circus skills that you're learning, but still you're a clown, you're a mime, you're an actor, you're a human being doing these things. I'm imagining that was important to you. And where did you get that training, other than just by osmosis around your father? Where did the interest in making a human do this rather than a spirit from the other world, if you know what I mean?
You asking me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we'll go to Masha.
It took me a long time, and my show was my teacher, really, because I didn't know how it works, really. Many people taught me, like my dad, or Peter Brook is for me a great teacher in what he says and what he does. So, and what it comes down to, that dosage of how you do something, I think that's the essence. And so obviously, yeah, it's a good question. How you combine comedy with walking on a high wire. And it's, for me, it's not possible, actually. Because if you cannot find yourself first and be yourself, and in that, this guy that is himself walking across the cable, then it's not going to work. You cannot be funny and hop across the rope, but if it's not you, I don't know if it's difficult to explain.
I understand, because I know your father was a musical clown, and I play instruments, but I found it very challenging because the mime energy and the music energy, the technique of playing an instrument, whatever it is, they're two different energies very often, and it took me years to learn how to play a musical instrument in front of an audience with a mimetic quality, which is, the mime is human, but also has this amazing ability of physicality. Yeah. And then working with music, how do you bring these two worlds together? It's very challenging. Very challenging.
Yeah. Masha, tell us a little bit about your training and how you developed as an artist.
I was also intrigued by wire walking, and then since my brother already had chosen the tight wire, I decided to do the slack wire. And that was really good for me. And so I went to Budapest too, and I learned a lot, but my teacher was actually at my parent school, my slack wire teacher. And I became bored by just learning tricks and having to do an act that is just tricks aligned one after the other. And I wanted to do a whole, an act that starts and ends by a story, by a choreography, by music written to it. And so I switched from Budapest to our school, the theater school for my parents, and that was really good because I gave it just another turn. For me, it was a means of also of expression, and so I did actually acts that were funny, that I did as a clown, as a gesture, or also seriously. My first jobs were at Pickle Family Circus during the West Coast. Yeah. And it was beautiful because they just let me create an act and have the orchestra play music for me, and they've written it exactly how I wanted it. And so that was my way of doing it. And I even got sometimes critics from other wire workers criticizing me that I make it appear so easy. And they said, you can't do that. People have to know it's hard. You can fall down. You can hurt yourself. It has to look difficult. So I said, it's just not my thing. It's not in my interest. And I had my falls, my accidents. And so I was,
there's actually on YouTube, there's these two versions of your skills that it will be a very good example for people to watch, because there's one that's this absolutely beautiful music in beautiful blue costume, and your assistant does all these acrobatics. I don't know what, it didn't say what circus that was part of, but
that was from Cirque du Soleil, but performed at Circus Knie.
Yeah, and so it's this beautifully choreographed, all of your skills. And then when you watch your show, The Red Thread, it's all the same things, but it's in this totally different context of the story, which is such an interesting comparison, that you can take the same material and then do something theatrical and story-wise and comic too.
I love that. I loved putting the technique away and then just play with it and give it a different sense or different level to have it like secondary, and it just runs without me.
There's this really beautiful clown moment when you're doing it. I think it's at the very end when you're spinning twirling the fabric and jumping and doing this amazing thing, and then you turn to the audience and make this little quip, and it's so clownesque that you can still be doing this amazing technique and at the same time have this little joke with the audience. It's beautiful.
How much were you both influenced by where you grew up? Like, I grew up on the Pacific Ocean with mountain ranges and the sea and islands, and you grew up in this valley with these amazing mountains and the green and the rocks and the sky. I mean, the sky must have had a special place for you. I mean, I know it did in my upbringing, and I know how nature influences an artist. I'm wondering, could you speak to the natural surroundings that you were in as a child, how that might have contributed to your feeling of, the openness of the sky, but the strength of the mountains and so forth? Maybe David, can you?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I like all the sense that you carry with you, in that you need to evaluate the simple things. Also, is this nice? Would this fit in your house? Looking at artwork, I think it all comes from the time when I grew up in this setting, in this valley. Like you said, these stone houses, I mean, this is actually incredible that people built houses all out of granite. It's like probably the heaviest material there is, and built the roofs with these stone pieces. It's like, it's a pile of stones, but the aesthetics that I encountered when I was little, going about life in our area of the world, I think helped me just get that sense that I think is developed about the aesthetics, about what is harmony, what is what is nature, what is good for the people, what is good for what feels good, what environment feels good. Obviously, absolutely influenced me greatly. And when I walk around in certain other places, then when it's not like it is at home, or where I grew up, then you feel those edgy places much more. They pop up much more than maybe somebody that grew up in an industrial area. No, we were very lucky about that, and it influenced us. Influenced me really a lot.
Did you ever? Did the two of you ever walk all the way to Verscho from the house? Did you ever hike all the way down?
I hiked and I unicycled all the time. Yeah. It's about Masha, about 5 miles maybe or so in miles.
Uh-huh. And Masha, do you have that same connection to nature? You feel that too?
Well, it's really part of me. I think it really gives me the liberty of being by myself, to not feel lonely ever, because we grew up so far away from company. We had each other, but siblings don't really always play together. So I was up in the trees and enjoying myself, reading a lot. But I think it really helps me being completely at ease with myself and not craving for company or for action or so. That I think
that sort of makes me think about like what it's like to be a touring artist, because many times if you're doing a solo show, you're out on the road, you are by yourself. And how do you survive as a touring artist? It's that, I mean, you have that rooting of being comfortable being on your own, but have you figured out different ways to make touring feasible? Masha, maybe you can answer.
David has his tent, so he travels with his truck, with his whole home. He travels. I just bought a little tent, so there were moments where I was really tired of that, especially now. Maybe I'm more comfortable. I have my bus and I can stay whenever I want. I'm at home. But touring, always being in different hotels, being different theaters, technicians that like you, don't like you, help you, don't help you, that sometimes made me really tired. Yeah. And in that case, I mean, in that way, I really love being in a circus, on tour with a circus, because you tour with your whole entourage and gives you more stability, gives you a home where you travel with. And I started with my solo shows touring by myself, and I soon gave up, and I had always a technician with me, at least to not have to have somebody helping, having somebody to talk to, having somebody to drive with, and which is now I travel always by myself, but I don't tour much at the moment. I'm in a company that I will be performing with soon. So that's another thing that I have to get used to, again, be in a company. Okay. So can
you tell us a challenge? Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about that project?
It's I haven't figured out really yet, because it's really a work in progress. And but it's physicals, and I have the privilege being the third generation. So whenever I'm in pain, whenever I say, no, I can't do that anymore. Oh, my arm, I can't lift it anymore. They say, oh, it's all right. Don't. We'll do everything so you feel comfortable. So this is like luxury. I can we do pretty difficult stuff too, but I'm really like, I have the jolly saying, no, sorry, I can't do that. That hurts, or I can't do that because of whatever. And so they just accept me as I am now.
Mm-hmm.
How would you, Masha, how would you define what you've done or what you do? Like, we have mime, we have clown, we have acrobat, we have circus performer, we have actor, we have, how would you define like what you do?
What is very cool in the Italian language, that if I say I'm un artista, that says everything. I don't need to explain.
Yeah. What about you, David? How did you define?
It's not an easy thing. When I was at Big Apple Circus, still young, and my mind was not as mature as today. I don't know, the word went around that we could have business cards. And so what do you put on a business card? I think I never used that business card, by the way, but it said Big Apple Circus on it. Yeah. And then I asked Paul Binder and said, what should I put? What am I? A wire walker or an acrobat and he said, performing artist. Put performing artist. And I guess, but my profession, like in Switzerland, I'm a wire walker.
Yeah.
Like they think that's funny on the, in the county or wire walker. I guess that's a profession, but it's maybe a little provocative.
Filling out your taxes and you have to fill out your profession. Wire walker. What?
It's such a challenge for physical theater artists, the people that do all these things, to label themselves in the world. I mean, the world has found these ways to stamp labels on people so they can be visible, right? But with us, it's really difficult. I mean, I think my whole lifetime I've struggled with, what do I call myself? And finally now I say, well, I'm a mime, and people's eyes go like this, and like you say, in the courthouse, I'm James Dunham, the mime, and they all do this, but it provokes conversation, and people really respect that, which is very interesting. But this idea of who are we, because there's so many ingredients, there's so many facets of you two do, and but I guess I'm human. I'm a human who does.
I'm human, yeah. I always admired my dad, who just since he was a youngster, actually, he wanted to be a clown, and he called himself Clown.
Yeah.
When clown was difficult to be accepted with, You wouldn't get any funds because you're clowns. We don't fund clowns. Yeah. Clown was also in certain circles there's a bunch of clowns,
right.
And it was really clear that's a profession, a respectful profession that he really was the ambassador of, he wanted to be. Like mime was not going down well with him, for example. Yeah. He didn't want to be a mime.
Yeah. But it's interesting, this word, we've been saying that the mime is a clown and the clown is a mime, is a clown, is a mime, is a clown. There's this merging of spirit and craft in those two forms. I know that your father was very influenced by Marceau, or especially in his earlier days. But that's one of the challenges of how do you label yourself. I know today I'm very aware there's many, many clown workshops now all over the world. And some of them are bordering, I think, on therapy rather than craft. There's a lot of emotion coming out, and not so much walking the wire or juggling or playing the music, the craft, or just being physically creative. Some of that is very distant now, which bothers me quite a bit. But so there's the Dimitri School now, which has been there for many, many, many years. And I know it's recognized by the Swiss government, right, as a educational institution. So that says something about the notion. I mean, I imagine that it was difficult for the school to publicize itself in the beginning. Is it a clown school? There's a mime school. There's a circus school.
And we talked to Daniel Bausch, the director, and the school is very impressive, and that the fact that it has lasted, that was this sort of lasting legacy from your family. Tell us a little bit more about the performing center. Is that separate from the school?
Masha, you'll be able to tell more about the school, but you have to look at it as a kind of the Dimitri world. It's a cultural center, and we are really lucky that the school has survived and is still there, part of this cultural center. It's a great, aspect of it all. But let's say that way, my parents wanted to make sure that it will be preserved and it will go on. So starting with the real estate aspect, he had to kind of find a way. What do you do with that little theater that he bought in the 70s and then added this and that and bought another little shed over here and made it into a studio and so on. So what do you do? So he turned it into a foundation and he donated basically everything to the foundation. So
I remember go ahead.
No, it's kind of protected. It's kind of protected under that legal entity,
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the first time I went there in 1977. I think that the theater was the wine was down below. It was
yes,
and I performed there on that little stage. It was amazing. I was whisked away from the state of North Carolina in 24 hours I stayed at the house, up the valley, and then I performed in that little place. And then the bigger theater was built above, and the little theater was below the restaurant, as I remember. And then now the institution, the school, has gone across the street. Now there's studios across the street from the neighborhood of where the theater and the school originally was. So it's grown tremendously.
And when you first came to the school, we had only one schoolroom.
Yeah, I think so. Right. Yeah. I remember there were steps that went down into it. Yeah,
And then I think you came again when we had a tent in the courtyard. No.
Yeah, I remember the tent. Yeah.
Yeah, there was an alternative space, and also to perform without being rained in during the summer.
Right.
And then my parents bought another house, and then so it now it's affiliated to high school, to école supérieure, and they keep lacking space, and so it's really and the community. I mean, the where the school and the theater is at, they're not really helpful. So it's a bit also a political issue for them not really acknowledging that this is such a great thing being there, and it's ongoing work to keep everything alive, and also to intervene how the school can use the theater, the school, what can they give each other to also survive and help each other to stay in this world as what it is. Yeah.
Tell us about the influence of who many people don't realize, Richard Weber, who was one of the co-founders in the beginning, right? The Czech mime from the Fialka company. He must have had a tremendous influence in the beginning also, right? In the formative years.
Well, imagine that he passed away just, I think, 1 year after, a few years after my father passed away. And he had to be replaced by 4 people. Just imagine what he thought. He had to be replaced by 4, not maybe even 5 people to be able to teach what he was teaching all by himself.
Yeah.
Just imagine.
Yeah, he was a wonderful man, very soft-spoken, extremely intelligent, very observant. Yeah, I really admired him quite a bit. Yeah.
Well, it sort of makes me think like it is a struggle to keep a school going, to keep a cultural center going. It's a struggle as performers to keep going, to figure out where are we going to perform, who are we going to perform with, where are the opportunities. Why do you create? Why do you perform? Why are you continuing to pursue it? Do you?
Good question. Need a drink.
You mean there's two worlds actually. One is the Dimitri world in Verso, which it's a heritage that is just too important. It's just too valuable for us all to let it go. You know, it's that's just a simple motivation to.
You feel pressure to like. Do you feel pressure to honor that? I mean, that you hope you don't fail or something like this. I don't know quite how to put it, but is there a responsibility? Do you think that it's very it can be too strong sometimes?
You know, when you pass your entire life with seeing your parents putting so much effort, the devotion, the love for that place, and just their life was that, you know, and then what they gave us, for me, it's a little bit like, yes, I owe it to them to give my share, to kind of look after it. Now, yes, comes a point where we have to find solutions to make it happen with other people, without me, without us, or our children, maybe, who knows, in a way, but trying to make it become so institutionalized at a national importance that the help will come in a more important way. That is a little bit my goal, trying to find ways so that those people that can make a difference in maybe in laws, in distributing funds, to realize that, hey, if we lose that place, like there's many examples that where they lost opportunities of great places. There is some places around us, Monteverita and all those places. What would happen if we would lose it? You know, it would be such a great loss. And I'm not saying it because it has a brand, has the Dimitri brand, and that we have to keep it up. No, because I really believe that it brought so much color, so much diversity in the area. But not only that, all the people that visit the area and they come to see, they bring something with them, you know, something. So that's my motivation for that place. Now, the motivation for my work is because I like to do it, and I think there's still something there. Huh? I would like to share it with the people and have a laugh, you know.
You like that connection with the audience that, you know, keeps you going.
Absolutely, and yeah, try to motivate people, prompt something in them that they will go home and say, if he can build his cannon and shoot himself out of it, then I'm going to try to do that, what I was always dreaming about, you know, but I never had the courage to do it. You know?
Yeah. Nice. That's good.
But I would be curious, Masha, what you think about the motivation, because I'm always in my head saying, why are we doing this? And it's such a good question, you know, and I don't know where you are, Masha, in this process of.
Well, I think first of all, also what runs at the theater is really very often really heartfelt art, and not some kind of making up, not people just like having received a big grant and being able to do a show, but really like artists that say something. And I think also we have a really unique location where the shows are very often physical theater, clowning. It's comprehensible without understanding. You don't need to understand the language, which I cherish very much. So we have a really unique signature in what is being presented there. And also now that when I go to theaters, I realize that we have such a unique place, because you stay there, you can eat there, you can spend some time there, you can really spend quality time there in a beautiful setting, in an incredible place, and it's all still human size. It's not overdimensional, it's not too small. You have a complete adventure. Audience that come there, they sometimes just don't want to leave anymore, and also to see after the show when they stay there and they eat something still or drink something, and they just want to share that moment with more people. It's just like goal every evening. I think that's remember, also what
I was going to say, I remember just to that point, I remember staying in Tegna, that little town nearby.
Tegna.
And then hearing the bell in the morning, walking to Verscho, doing whatever I was doing there, then hiking up in the mountain behind Verscho, like the trail, and the river was there. And I'm a train fanatic. The little train would come through. I mean, it was amazing place. You could stay for a long time.
Shared experience, that shared community that happens when people see a show and then afterwards they want to sit around and talk about it. They don't just say, "Oh, that was nice," and they go home, but they've been inspired, they've been connected, they have a connection. What, Masha? What about you?
No, but just to say, when people come in the restaurant when it's cold, and so people eat inside, there is just 6 big tables, so people already have to share. They have to sit next to each other at the same table. So so that already is an experience, because usually you have your little table, you guard it, and there you come in and you already have to share with maybe 2 other parties the table. So it already puts you in a mood of being together, then going together into the audience, and coming out, maybe drink something and then talk and stay around. And so it's like an adventure the whole evening.
That's what theater is meant to do, is to bring people together and to share food and drink and ideas, right? So I think.
And Masha, now the second part of the question: what keeps you performing? What motivates you as an artist to keep creating?
You caught me there.
Best answer.
Next question. Well, I have actually had a long break. When the pandemic came, I really stopped, because I and it was perfect. I had really no worry. I took care of my mom. I was there until she died, and that was just amazing. I was there also able to clean out all our parents' the house, and put all my father's stuff in one place, and it has to still be dealt with. What are we going to do with it? Something really exciting, open to people, and really just slowly. Now it's the first time I directed 2 shows in that time, a circus and a variety show. Circus Monte in Switzerland, a little beautiful circus in Switzerland. And now I'm in a show that will be touring not so much, and I'm really curious myself what I'm gonna be doing.
Did you direct, Masha, the show with the train, the little train as the centerpiece?
We're gonna do another one. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, can you talk about that? That seems like a very unique project. It was very interesting.
Very unique. Yeah.
Yeah. We did the first ones in 2012 and 13, with my dad, and that was really unique. We started in Verscho, and we were all characters. Some traveling with the train, some not. The people got in and out of the train and different stations. it was at the time, in the day where there were almost no other trains traveling. So the whole valley was for us, and we had transports by bus, by car, and we arrived at the end location at the frontier to Italy, where we had a last dinner, the last scene, and a dinner, and all the audience at the end at 11 o'clock, they would just be brought back by train in the dark back to where it started.
And they all traveled. The audience traveled on the train up the route. That's where they started. Yeah.
Yeah,
and where was the performing? Was the performing in the train or at the station?
Both.
Yeah.
Both. Yeah.
What was the theme? What was the theme of the piece?
It's very much about the valley. The Italian part of Switzerland. Not so long ago in the last centuries, even towards the end, still in the 70s or so, kids were being forced to be chimney sweepers.
Oh.
So they were brought to Italy and had led most of them a miserable life. And so that was one part. We had those little kids being part of it, and we had we had a little medley of themes of the valley. So we had witches that were supposed to be coming from one mountain. We had the one that created actually the train, that built the train there, the train going up the valley. Then we had our dad. He played a lost warrior of Cartagena, and he was looking for his elephant. So.
Wow.
And I was one of the control people of the train. So I could intervene whenever I needed to, when it was important to get the people in and out. So I could make come on, go. And so I was only the assistant train control guy, girl. And so I could be just the complete jerk or the complete dummy or the complete whatever needed to be done. So
and you weren't a lot of the actors local people? I mean, it seemed like
there were amateurs. Yeah, they were not professionals. Yeah. So we plan to do a new one in 25.
Oh, I need to come. I want to come to see that because I have a love for trains. But I want to know about this when it happens. Yeah.
It's sort of like maybe that's another reason for being a creator or a performer, is just to see, well, we have this idea. Could we actually make it happen? Could we really make a whole train into a performance? Or could I really create a circus with only one person like David does? It's like, here's a problem. Can we actually do this?
Wow. Karen.
That train.
I'm feeling
train.
Yes, David.
That train project is so unique because you have to imagine, for those viewers, the setting is so out of this world in this Centovalli. The Centovalli is a V valley in comparison to a U valley. It's a very steep valley, very frightening, very deep. You can see down, hundreds of feet into the bottom of the valley. And in this little valley, it's called the Centovalli. It has 100 little valleys. It's like, so that this train goes up this valley on bridges that are, 500 feet up in the air, and it's really rough. We grew up there, so for us it's normal, but if you come and visit and then suddenly you take this train, just the train alone is an adventure. It's like, and then this theater show that was taking place, it was surreal. It's like these characters, Masha and all the others. It really was a big local tourist attraction. Actually, it was.
Yeah. Does
That
the
sounds
train
great.
end? Does it end? Is there a station at the very end, or does it go
At the
in
border, at the Swiss border, actually, because after it's Italy, but the train would continue. But I guess you had to make
But it
a
stops
choice,
at the
right,
border.
Masha?
Yeah.
It stops at the border, right? The train stops at the border.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
it can go on. It can go on, but we
Oh.
really, as David said, we had to make a choice because there was no way of being in Italy and having because it just we were on the Swiss side, so we had to deal with the Swiss side.
Speaking of, how is the Italian speaking culture versus the German speaking culture influenced your art, do you think? I mean, this is a tricky, I'm sure you've been asked this, but do you find differences or inspirations in the Italian influence versus the German that's very, I mean, what are the differences, do you think? Or how has it influenced you? Oh, they're thinking very hard here.
Yeah. I spent more time in the Italian part of Switzerland than David, so I think it really did influence me. But he stayed much longer in the United States. I think we always get our influences maybe where we create or where we
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You
The language is maybe Switzerland already has 4 languages, plus English 5. So the language is we sometimes, I mean, I see often shows that are just a whole mix of all the languages,
Mhm.
2 sentences in that language, 2 in the other, and it's not out of the common, and so that's maybe one of the aspects being there. And then you have the people from Zurich coming down, and then you have to make it understandable for them. So, yeah. And
That's
then
probably the choice to have a physical theater, that you don't rely on the language, that it is when you do your solo show, David, is there speaking in it?
Not at all, no.
It's awesome.
No, it's all, I show them what I want them to understand, but not with words. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you say
makes it adaptable for wherever you're performing it?
Yeah,
I would imagine most artists speak several of those languages, but does the normal person in Switzerland speak more than two, or do they stay pretty much in their region with their language? Like an artist may, because you travel, you would speak many different languages. But what about the public?
They do speak more languages. That's true. I mean, it's rare that one person only speaks, but like in any country, like in the United States,
True.
Except everything is so concentrated. You could go 5 miles and there's another language suddenly, and that's really amazing. There's a few cities that are bilingual, so everybody speaks 2 languages, and I heard that the rule is, if you start a conversation in a certain language, then everybody has to follow that language. Mm-hmm. If you start it in the other language, like French and German is usually the bilingual. So, but it is amazing that you could really, the borders are so, like, you literally drive a few miles and then you're in another county and they speak German instead of English.
Whereas in the United States, we're so vast and we're so English centric that everyone has to adapt to us. And even if that's not their native language, they are expected to speak English.
I always like to tell Masha, I've heard it a million times, but when our dad toured extensively the United States, obviously he went to visit certain attractions also. And then once he said, well, let's go and see this place. And he drove around that area with his technician asking for, where is the Niagara Fall?
Yeah.
And nobody understood do it where he wanted to go. Where is the Niagara Fall? And he wanted to say, where is the Niagara Falls? Where are the Niagara Falls?
This is your
Just
father?
to say that.
This is your father?
Yeah.
Yeah, my father. And just to say that we're so maybe more tuned to interpret what somebody says, even if it doesn't sound like
Yes.
like usual,
Yeah.
But the Americans, because they have no opportunity to hear other languages there. If it's not pronounced in the right way, it's like sometimes maybe
or they come up with a different way to pronounce the French or the German that is like,
Yes, that too. Yeah.
The Spanish language in California it's becoming much stronger now. Like I'm bilingual, and so I will use Spanish quite a bit in my these days. So
mostly
married to a Cuban woman, so we speak Spanish a lot. I think, Karen, it's getting warm. I think
are you?
It might be time.
What?
It's getting warm.
You feel a little
I feel some heat coming.
Sweaty? You're fire. Are we on fire?
Yeah. Oh, wait. Put it in. All right.
Okay, Masha and David, it's time for rapid fire.
So,
right.
this is the intermission.
What do we have to do?
This is the intermission in our program, and so it's a word association game.
Give you a chance to be a little physical.
Yeah, we're gonna throw out some. I'm gonna read some words to you, like spotlight or age, and you can either physically or verbally react in a one word or one gesture your feelings about this. Okay, would you like to do this?
Do we do that together?
David's not sure. Oh, he's sure. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we have time, and we can talk all day. I mean, we've been talking for.
Yeah,
we have some more questions after this. This will just be a short little thing. Okay, you ready?
All right. Yeah.
This is called Rapid Fire, and the famous Mind Radio Show session. Okay, here goes. Spotlight.
Heat.
Gotta think fast, David. Gotta think, David. I'll call you David.
I'm too slow. Wait, I'm moving.
Hands.
What?
Hands.
Mime.
COVID.
What did he say?
Oh.
What did you say?
COVID.
Eyes.
Enchanting.
Fourth.
Look.
Whoops, sorry. Say it again, David. I interrupted you.
Look.
Fourth wall.
Flat.
Intriguing.
Sweat.
Exercise.
Food.
I get it. Good answer. Excuse me. Child.
What's a child?
Yeah.
Laugh.
Clown.
Yeah. Laugh.
Elder. Old.
Pain.
Fragile.
Props.
What? Sorry.
Props. Things.
Tool.
Theater props.
Ah, prop. Okay.
Object. No, it's not.
Scenography.
Mask.
Story.
Fake.
Age.
You already
Beauty.
said that.
No, he said he had a different answer though. He said
Experience.
There you go. Failure.
Funny.
Progress.
I like those.
Critic.
Learning.
Anger.
Ooh.
No, it's not a
Teacher.
good one.
Teacher.
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 Experience.
Daring.
Fame.
Careful.
Yeah, danger too.
Yeah. Language.
Expression.
Liberty. Yeah, liberty.
Mime.
Attention.
Expression.
David is being a good mime because he wasn't speaking.
Okay, here are just a couple more that are more artistic. Elephant laugh.
Water.
Elephant laugh.
Tail.
What?
Tail. The tail of the elephant.
Yes. Neon box.
Like the light neon?
Yeah, neon box.
Ooh, magic.
Okay.
Don't know.
David's brain. Neon box. No. And future.
Hope.
Exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
That was it, ladies and gentlemen. Rapid fire. Thank you very much. So I have a question about the future. So we're all getting older, and we feel certain things changing in our minds and bodies, maybe more so in our bodies. How does an artist adapt, especially with the more physical things? How does one adapt to the aging process, do you think? Because I know when you're young, as a young artist, you never think about that. You never, and especially a physical artist, we don't think about that really when we're younger. But suddenly a time comes and, I can't do that. Or I fell, or oops, I got that pain, or I have to stop for 2 weeks to let the sprain heal. Like, how do we adapt so we can keep the magic?
Such an intelligent question, James. Because adapting could be also just stopping something. But how do we adapt is, in our terms, I mean, what I am concerned, what concerns me, I want to say, is how can you make something that you did for so long in a certain way, in another way, to physically still be able to do it and be able to do it in a way so it has the same quality.
Same balance, yeah.
That I think is how can you make the same thing, change it so that you physically can do it and not losing the strength, the meaning of it.
Yeah, it comes down to your heart. Maybe it comes down to your heart in the end. Like, how does the heart stay strong?
Because they say clowns can survive very old ages, very old, become very old and become even better. But that's just not because they still do a double somersault, but because they could reduce it to the essence, I guess. If you can do that, then you can go on. If you cannot do that, then it's probably better to stop.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, you take things away. You'd like peel back to the very heart, the very essence of what you're doing. Because most older artists will be very economical, very simple. The best ones are very simple,
Maybe if you don't understand in all those years, until you get to that point, you have to understand what the essence is. If you don't, then it's hard.
Yeah.
And I never forget in at Juilliard, we had Anna Sokolo was a great teacher.
Yeah,
and you knew her?
She put a dance on me once. I'll have to tell you sometime. It was a learning experience in Mexico. Yeah, it's another story, but she choreographed something for myself and my wife, Tonya, who performed at the Adverso.
Really?
Yeah. Anyway, amazing. Tell us the story. Yeah.
But that's when, like when you're a child, at some point you start counting you understand the calendar, and from then on you start counting days and time.
Yeah.
And with Anna Sokolo, I started to understand the essence of a movement, which I didn't know before. I just did movements. People told me, you have a talent, you should become a dancer, but I just did basically movements that somebody told me to do and explained to me how to do it, but not understand what the movement is about. And it's not that she told me, look, the movement is such because, no, she just simply said, it's not right what you're doing, it's like this. And I kept repeating, but it was going nowhere, it was just not right. And that got me thinking. And I think if you can understand that, if you can learn to understand in time, I think then, like, Merth Cunningham, I saw him dance probably, shortly before he passed away. He was, 80 years old or something like that. But the way he moved on that stage with nothing, with almost no movement, but that's, I think, the really, really amazing thing. And I don't know if I can do it, but I'm prepared to stop. I'm prepared to.
The question
stop
will be
performing.
The question will be if you can stop, or if you will allow yourself to stop. But if you don't stop, you have to find this new way. But I think it will be very clear. Like, if people were interviewing me right now, I'd talk about that at length. I'm almost 76, so there's something very clear for me happening now that seems the right way. And it's not doing the flip or doing this or that, it's very interesting. That's another discussion. What about you, Masha? How you were talking about a pain the other day, or something like that. Like, how do you adapt? Like, you're performing now, how do you approach it now?
Right now I approach it and have to find a therapist that helps me to go on. I'm actually really curious how my performing will change, because I think after so many years, I'm really looking for quality instead of quantity. So I don't know if I will ever go back onto the wire. I haven't had the urge to do so because it was just too much pain was involved. And so I'm actually really open of transforming whatever I can do, but to have more meaning in what I do, and not just showing what I can do.
Yeah, I think it'll be clear.
And Masha, you also mentioned that you're directing. So do you get the same artistic, creative pleasure out of directing as you do as performing?
Well, that's really quite different, because my way of directing is really just letting things happen, and I just steer a little bit, so I will always have to have a group of people that is actually okay with that, and also I found a really incredible co-director, and we did Circus Monty together, and he's really he did our school. So we have a background that we have a common language, and that is really great, because I love to have things happen without having to force them. So I love it directing that the show just evolves, and without having to like force people to do things they don't want to do. And that's also was very much my father's way also of directing. And I'm even more so, because he usually wrote really a story, and I'm just there, and then things happen.
But that's the kind of director that, physical theater is usually about people who are creator performers. They have the creative ideas, and they're the performers too. And you don't need a director that comes in with their own sort of dictatorial kind of attitude. You need somebody that's going to just keep things going and urging them, saying yes to them. Yeah. That's the right kind of director to be, I think.
Speaking about this, David, we can't stop without you talking a little bit about the one-man circus, because I think that your show, the one-man circus, because I think that has something to do with age too, in terms of where you've come to in your life and what you're trying to do and what your goals are with that. But I think that's a phenomenal. I've only seen video, and I'm amazed and would so love to see it in person someday. But it's such a fantastic idea. I think it's almost like coming to the church, like you found what the meaning of performance and the meaning of being an artist and that experience. In some ways, I would think you might come to that place, that the special place. What are your feelings about that?
Well, maybe is, and I don't know if I would have had the courage to go that way if it wasn't because of my father, who just gave me so much confidence in hey, just show the people what you can do. That was the motor behind it, and so this circus was born. Just this guy traveling around the world, showing his circus, his skills to the people. Hey, come to my house and I show you how, what I can do.
Come to my house. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
This idea of this intimate, special dining room, special place.
Yeah. And I really live this because, and from the moment I get into my truck and drive off to the next festival, or I really step into another world, it's another universe. It's my it's my own world. And also I suddenly had my own creation, but from everything. It's David, it's Didi,
Yeah.
It's not Dimitri. It's I went to places where they have never heard of Dimitri, and suddenly this guy comes with his tent, and where is he coming from? That was really, in a way, what happened in France when I started. Totally unexpected, because after living through the Avignon Festival, which was in my mind, my last destination before giving up, because the thing just didn't work. They just, I was totally broke. The show was not, in the sense, ready. Nobody was interested. And Avignon, you could go kind of on your own, it was not where you had to be invited. So I took that chance. I said, that's going to be the test. But the test went really bad there. It started with the police in Avignon prohibiting me to put up my tent.
Wow.
From wrong scheduling in people didn't find where the show was taking place. And And so really everything was set to just give up. But I didn't give up, and I just kept going. And then one evening, these two guys were waiting for me after one of the performances, which only had I don't know what we had, Masha, I think 20, 25 people at the most that came to see my show. And these two guys offered me a contract in a festival, in a French festival. And I was first debating whether to wait until that festival would happen, which was 6 months down the road. But anyway, to make the long story short, I decided to do it. And I'm also saying this too, if somebody is watching younger, motivated artists, it's a hard way, it's a hard road, and things could go not the way you dream of, and that doesn't mean a thing, really. You have to keep trying. And when I went to that festival, finally, it was like I was reborn in a way, because everything happened differently than I had expected. I was thinking it's going to be another situation where, I'm going to be half broke, and it's not going to work. But there was a motor in me that said, I'm going to give it another try. And that evening, the first night, I had a sold out show. I had enthusiastic audience, and I had a bunch of really interested theater directors, festival directors that were trying to reach me and ask me when I was able to come to their festival. And it was just, so it's just an example of not even having it planned, but just doing honest work. Be yourself, and yeah, that maybe the humbleness also, just to say, I'm at the point, I'm just going to do what I can and nothing more. And that somehow worked out. And that was 17 years ago.
Wow, that's inspirational.
It is beautiful.
Have you been able to perform in Latin America? I'm thinking Latin America would just love what you're doing, but would you have to get a new truck or put something on a boat, or
They say, because I truck myself when I'm in the United States. I did 3 tours. I always truck myself. So from Miami, where I pick up the container. But I was told that driving to South America is not advisable.
No, you would have to. You would have to arrive there, in Brazil or yeah. Argentina or Chile or something. I mean,
the one way might be to just always stop and get the enthusiasm of the people to be with you, and kind of the people would protect you to go.
No, that's true. I've done a lot of performing in Mexico, and they will protect you. Yeah. But I didn't. Did you ever get to the West Coast with the show? I don't remember you driving all the way to California.
Yeah, I tried, but no, I haven't gone as far. I only went to Arkansas.
Yeah. How did the United States audiences like you?
Very good. Very nice. Yeah. Obviously very spontaneous. And it's interesting that the audience, and I had most experience in France.
Yeah.
It's not the country that is the difference. It's the different regions, the different levels of, society. You could go into neighborhoods that have never, seen a thing like this.
Yeah.
And that makes the difference of the audience, but the language is always the same, and it could be United States, or it could be Greece or Slovenia, and it's always the same. But it changes.
I'm just saying that I think what you're doing would be wonderful in South America and other parts of the United States and Canada. I just if there's anything I can do to help you in the future, let me know, because I really believe in what you're doing. And it's also interesting. I think as we get older, we don't care if we're performing for 2,000 people. We don't, it could be 10 people. It could be 20, as long as the ambience is conducive to that magical place. It comes back to the campfire, of the people, centuries ago, just telling stories to their families. It gets very, like you say, very essential and very simple with just the fire burning. I think that's, as we get older, we start to understand that much better. So,
I think I'm just, it's a metaphor, but there is so many people in this world that actually do the same thing like I do, like you do, but it's not performing. They're building cars or engines, or
that's true.
Try to fly, but in a way they do the same. They pursue a dream, and just because of this motivation, they realize just the same incredible things that you wouldn't imagine. And I do it in the way of walking on a high wire or shooting myself out of a cannon. But in the end, it's the same thing.
I think we have two more questions. There's one I think it's very important. So first of all, do both of you teach at all, or like what's the responsibility or mission for the artist to hand down their art? I mean, there's other ways to do it besides teaching. I know you probably know of Jeff Hoyle, the really fine clown that was with the Pickle family. He doesn't teach. He says, my performance is my classroom. That's what he'll say. And I'm wondering, what's your feeling about the artist as a educator? Is it something that you like to do yourself, or is that for others and you teach through your art, through your performance? What do you think, Masha?
I don't like to teach.
Pardon?
I don't like to teach.
Yeah. You think there's a responsibility how does one hand down your knowledge? Like your father didn't like to teach either, or he didn't teach much either, but he certainly gave, I know he was a mentor to me, just by watching and observing. So I think there's that power too. But what's your feeling about the...
Yeah, my teaching somehow probably is reflected in directing. Somehow it is somehow teaching, but not really teaching, because you work with professionals most of the time, but still it's passing on something. And
yeah.
What about you, David?
I if I could, I don't know if I can, but that would be a dream if I could be like Anna Sokolo. Pass on to make a wire walker, to help a wire walker with the communication part, How can he become that mesmerizing without doing a double flip,
right.
I think if one teaches only what they know, honestly, with passion, you'll be a good teacher. I think that's only those things you need. What you know, not what somebody else knows, is what you know. Do it with honesty and with passion. That usually brings results.
Do you teach, James?
Yeah, that's part of 50% or more of what I do. I've always loved it since I was 22 years old. I think the performing and the teaching go hand in hand.
And sometimes teaching is really a performance. It's like
oh, absolutely,
and the same sort of connection that you have with your audience, you have to have that connection with your students, because you have to figure out what's the best way to connect. That's true in directing too, I'm sure, Masha, that you're like connecting with what's the best way to get this person to pull this out of them. And that's kind of the same like audience performer connection too.
Yeah.
Masha, David was giving a little bit of advice to young performers. What would your advice to young performers be? To clowns or mimes or acrobats? What would you say?
Well, first of all, do what you love and love what you do. And we were in a very strange era a little bit that I don't know if it's everywhere. I don't know if it's in the States, but people give more to their image, more credential to their image than performing what they're actually feeling and being honest about that. So I would say really be honest about your work and don't try to, I don't know, don't try to be somebody else. Just find yourself.
No, it's true.
That's good advice. I like that. I like that a lot.
Wow, this has been a great conversation. This is, I think this is the longest one we've done, and we could go on. We could have some food and then continue after dinner or after lunch. But
ask them the last question.
You both are treasures to the world. Karen, ask them the last question.
Oh, I was just going to ask you to ask them.
Oh, I could do that. Okay, so the last question, we'll start with Masha. What do you want to be when you grow up?
You know, I have I read a lot of stories. You talked about the one show I do because I tell stories, but that's the show I perform probably the least. But I do love stories, and there's one in particular I love is I don't know if I can. It's more like a moment somebody is doing really good a good job, and God wants to give him a gift and says to the angels, go and ask him what he wants to do. We give him anything because he's such an incredible person. And then they come and he doesn't want anything, and they really like crying and pleading with him. Please, God told us, please, please, please. We cannot come back without having given you a gift or something. And so he understands the drama of the situation, says, okay, I want to not know that I'm doing something good. So they give him this gift that his shadow heals, that he never knows about it, or so I would like to actually, not knowing what I can do, I would like to just feel what is right and not having to painfully create it, but just be who I am, be more and more honest about who I am, and do what I can do, but not, I don't need fame. I don't need, even if it's just in my little circle, to just be a good person and enjoy.
Fantastic. And David, you have the final say.
Well,
what do you want to be when you grow up?
Exactly. First of all, I don't want to grow up. But if I grow up, I really I have so great admiration for all those people that are just content with what they have, and I have to learn that. I want to, when I grow up, I want to enjoy the moment more than I have this terrible defect of always wanting to do more, and I have realized that it's not a good thing. You have to also learn to not always want to do a new thing, and also this I want to do and that, but that the quality is in just being. Just a moment is so valuable, that just a moment, not. And I think that's when I can do that, I will be grown up.
Wow.
That's really beautiful, David. And both of you, those are beautiful sentiments. Thank you.
Well,
Thank
ladies
you
and gentlemen.
so much.
Thank you.
It's been a wonderful
For your
conversation.
really
Thank you.
intelligent and questions, and what is really nice to be asked questions from people like you that are so professional and are in this profession. It's a pleasure, a great pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Mime Radio Show podcast. Be sure to tune in the last Monday of June for episode 35, an interview with Daniel Stein. And be sure to like and subscribe.